Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome back to yet another episode. I think we're at episode number 18, probably, if my memory doesn't fail me.
18 or 19
Uh,
of the
Something like
weekly
that. But hey,
equity market,
it's
weekly equity market recap. What investors must know this week.
with Joseph Di Virgilio and Irfan Khan.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyway,
Joseph, everybody knows who you are, but for the new viewers, what does
yeah,
that mean to you?
a hedge fund veteran with over 25 years experience on Wall Street running long short equity funds and founder of the very first sustainability focused hedge fund in history back in 2004. And who are you, Irfan?
I am also an investor and your partner in crime in this.
Absolutely. Here we get to talk about last week's market recap, equities, what happened, some of the geopolitical issues that are affecting our finances, the economic data, what to expect next week. And we're going to talk about a bunch of other things, headline news like UFOs. We're going to talk about that too. But before we do that, we're going to start with the statistic of the week. Irfan, you go.
So the statistic of the week is that 25 UFOs have landed on planet Earth since they started talking, and nobody has seen them.
Come
No, I'm
on.
joking. So short-term coin flip. You can then help us understand what that definition is a bit better. If you invest for just 1 month, you have a 40% chance, that's a lot, of losing money after inflation. So that means even if I gain a certain percentage, then I still lose money.
So basically, the short-term coin flip means that if you invest money in just 1 month, the chances are you're going to lose money. It's basically trying to tell you that don't ever think that you're going to, that you're sure to make money in 1 month, and that's why you need to stay invested for the long term.
Oh no, I know these stocks are all going to really go sky high, so I'm just going to enter the market now and then exit a month later.
Remember Peter Lynch? Remember what I told you about what Peter Lynch said? That
Mm.
people spend, more time researching which $500 dishwasher or washing machine to buy, and then they hear somebody on the bus talk about a stock, and then they'll just put freaking twenty
Or a
thousand
taxi.
right on it. So it's like, yeah, invest for the long term. Always invest for the long term. Short term is speculation. And one thing I want to make really clear to everybody who follow, because I've gotten some messages in private. Investing with options, it's not really investing. You're speculating on the price movement of a stock. You don't own a piece of the company. So when people say, oh, I invest by using options, let's make it clear. You're not investing with options. Unless you buy an option which you're willing to exercise to then buy the
Yeah,
stock because you want to hold on to it, that's a different story. But if you're trading options or buying options, doing your straddles, your
not really investing.
butterflies or iron condors, whatever strategy, you're not investing.
Broken wing butterfly.
Broken, broken. So you're not investing. You're just betting on the price movement of a stock. So I just want to make clear that. So equity market recap last week.
What about since we're on options, sorry, just what about futures? Because they're also
Same
derivatives.
thing. Same thing.
Yeah.
Futures, they also have a duration, an expiry date. They have a curve value that has to be, that deteriorates as the expiry date gets closer. So, again, anything that is a derivative, you're really not investing. Okay, it's just
Mhm.
simple as that. So we get to the equity markets. So the S&P 500 reached new highs. So did the Nasdaq. And this performance was primarily driven by a robust corporate earnings season and renewed optimism surrounding artificial intelligence, and a little bit of the geopolitical mess in the Strait of Hormuz, which the market is really not looking at the risk anymore. They just I don't know what they're doing, but it seems like as long as there are no more, nuclear threats. Things are okay. So it was the weekly performance was characterized by six consecutive weekly gains for the major averages. Although the Dow Jones actually trailed significantly. The Nasdaq was up 4.7%. The S&P was up 2.7%. The Russell 1.7%. and the Dow up 1.36%. Mainly AI and technology sectors were the main drivers for the rally. The tech sector led the rally as investors doubled down on the AI infrastructure build out. Nvidia reached $5.2 trillion market cap, which is a new record. It's incredible. One car.
5.2 trillion.
I mean, think about it this way. You live in Italy, right? So the market cap of Nvidia is 2.5 times larger than Italy's GDP. Italy's GDP is like 2.5 trillion, something like
Yeah,
that.
but just forget Italy. But just think about if Nvidia was a country, where would it rank? It would rank as the third largest economy in the world, something like that. Basically, after the
Look,
U.S.,
so
after
wait.
the U.S. and China, you would have Nvidia.
So the G7 are the largest economies in the world, and
Well, by per capita,
which,
maybe,
yeah, but
it includes India, and India and China are not part of the G7.
oh yes, they are. Of course, they are. It's United States, Canada, Italy, France, Japan,
No, they're part of the
China,
G20.
and India. But nevertheless, yeah, I would say that Nvidia, if Nvidia were a country, we're one of the top 3 or 4 countries in the world.
After U.S. and China, you probably have Nvidia.
U.S. is a $39 trillion economy.
Yeah.
But anyways, but still, but it's impressive, I guess. So what we saw was actually the semiconductors doing very well, especially Intel, AMD, Micron. They did quite well, and some of the software companies are coming back. Earnings momentum, 85% of the companies have actually reported, and 85% of them have exceeded consensus estimates, and analysts have revised first quarter earnings growth up to 27.7%, the strongest since 2021. That's huge. And we were talking about this already, that earnings revisions are going up, and it means that markets should continue going up. Well, we'll see. There's also always the geopolitical factor. Like for example, we saw a sharp sell-off on Monday, May 4th, as tensions flared in the Strait of Hormuz between the U.S. and Iran again. Oil prices briefly spiked to $114 a barrel, then they eased later. I wouldn't want to be had I been involved or invested in oil at the beginning of the conflict, I'd be okay now because I would still have a profit. But if I bought something in the last month, I would be freaking out right now because oil's all over the freaking place. It's all over the place.
It doesn't allow you to make any sort of projections or planning or nothing. I mean,
You can't. It's impossible. I mean, you can't. I mean,
just keeps
still shooting at each other. One is calling it a block, I'm blockading it. The other ones are saying we were closing it. It's just a complete mess that could have been avoided altogether. Economic data. April jobs report showed 115,000 jobs, the number exceeded estimates, and the unemployment rate stayed at 4.3%. And this kind of says the Fed has signaled also that they're in no rush to cut rates. So that's it. In other words, so. What I wanted to say is this. So the Strait of Hormuz, there's no real resolution. We're still waiting on Iran to get back to the United States. It seems like they don't want to. I hear that there's really no moving on this. There's very little conceding on both sides, and so we're going to be in a stalemate for a while here, I think. But I think that what's going to happen is. Iran might have, while Iran can actually hold off another 3 or 4 months, but the rest of the world wouldn't. So I think that there will be some negotiating around that. So, but as far as being at peace with each other,
let's see if there really is negotiating. I mean, there's been lots of talk about it.
Yeah.
But nothing concrete, nothing solid.
Nothing. It's just it's like the stalemate. And Trump, I hear reports that Trump is actually bored. He starts a war, then he just says, "Fuck it, I'm walking away because I'm bored to death." I don't know, but hey. So and the closure of the strait has actually made sulfur prices jump to record highs. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, and that's one of the last, basic materials to have an impact. And like the fertilizers that we were talking about a month or two ago, helium and all these other. So
Yeah, because it's important to remember that, with the Strait of Hormuz being shut, it's not simply crude
oil,
oil
right?
and
It's natural
LNG.
gas. It's basic materials. It's pretty much everything. I mean, the largest producer of condoms said that they had to jack up prices because of the Strait of Hormuz. Just to let you know, a lot of babies out
Okay.
there. A lot of babies going to be born in 9 months.
Unwanted.
There you go. So the other thing is that we heard from McDonald's is saying that arguably McDonald's here in the United States, low income people go there, and the CEO said that their customer base is not making it at the end of the month, and so they're basically they gave a profit warning saying, we got less traffic in our restaurants because people can't afford to eat McDonald's. So you imagine that, and that kind of it's kind of scary because that's the last resort. We will have a Happy Meal or for $5, $6, $7, whatever that is.
Yeah, I won't be happy anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to a Ukraine war, by the way. It seems like this parade that lasted only 45 minutes, the Victory Day parade in Moscow yesterday.
Yeah.
Was it yesterday? Yeah, and the,
Yes, the 9th of May. Yeah.
yeah. So it was reduced to 45 minutes as opposed to the traditional 1.5 hours. It had no military equipment. World leaders were not there, and technically, Russia had to ask permission to Ukraine to hold this parade because they were scared that drones were going to fly out of the skies during the parade. So it was pretty interesting how this was all Zelensky letting it happen, really. And believe it or not,
Bit
Putin.
of an interesting
Now,
turn of events, right? I mean,
yeah.
this talks about the fact that Ukraine probably now has developed pretty good assortment of drones,
Oh yeah.
pretty high
They have
technology.
completely reshaped the art of war. I mean,
Mm.
and Putin, for take him at his for what he. I don't know if you want to believe what he says, but he signaled yesterday that the war was close to the end. That's because, well, first he fears an assassination attempt or a coup attempt. He's been in hiding under bunkers. I think he's feeling the pressure at this point for internally. And perhaps he's going to bail at this point. I don't know whether to save his ass or to stay in power. I'm not too sure what's going to happen. I'm not a geopolitical analyst, but the fact that he's hinted at that after the Victory Day parade, where he showed up for 45 minutes, surrounded by more guards than ever. I think he's starting to feel the pressure, and he's always been very paranoid. I think that this is push him over the top, and he's gonna have to something has to give. And I wanted to touch upon UFOs a second. So on Friday, the Pentagon released a bunch of files, declassified files related to UFOs. Now, there's not a lot there, but at least something is something is moving in a sense. I've always been fascinated by this subject, and now you flipped the script because before, when people who saw UFOs were considered crazy. Now the government has to explain to us what the hell they are because they are admitting that in fact we have something in our skies.
But how
We
how do
don't
these
fucking know
things
what it
work?
is.
Honestly, I don't know how these things work in the sense, I mean, was it expected? Had the Pentagon, was it the Pentagon? Had they announced earlier that on Friday, the 8th of May, they would have released these files, or was it just a complete surprise?
No, there were rumors on the web. I think that because Trump had hinted that he was going to release these files soon. And then
Mm.
Congresswoman Paulina Luna from Florida, she tweeted on X. She X'd on, but she tweeted tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning. This was the day before. We will be releasing the very first batch of material, and it did, and they did. I don't think it was exactly 30, but they did that morning. And but this is ongoing since 2017, since the New York Times revealed that there was a program that was a budget for a black project studying UFOs. This was going back to Senator Reid from Nevada, who had an interest in this, and he funded this group that studied UFOs in the Pentagon. So the New York Times wrote a piece on that, and ever since then, there's been drip, drip, drip of a new video or a picture or something, and congressional hearings with David Grush and some others who have made headlines about having worked in parts of the government or the military where they dealt directly with non-human crafts of sorts, stuff like that. I mean, I follow this because it's fascinated me, so I follow it a little bit. And so, yeah. So let's see. They're saying that every few weeks they're going to be.
How does that affect markets for us?
It doesn't until they say until somebody says, okay, truth is there's no religion. The aliens have created us and they can wipe us out anytime they want. So I don't know. Stock of the week, Alstom. Alstom
We talked about Alstom before.
We did, and then we're talking about it again because. So Alstom saw a 30% drop a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
Because again, they're struggling to get their cash flow. Struggling to produce cash flow, and this was still due to the backlog that occurred during COVID, where they had orders that they could not fulfill because there were no workers going to work, and so they're still struggling. It's a very complex company.
Let's remind our friends in in the U.S. what Alstom is, because they might not always know.
Yeah, Alstom is a French company that builds trams, trains, carts, new generation hydrogen.
Fast trains too, yes.
Bus, yeah. And they're very much into the environmental thing because they're relying on it now. They've rolled out their hydrogen. Trains, their fueled trains and trams, or they're very much into the urbanizing urbanization, if you will, and they're doing it under a sustainable umbrella, and I like that. But again, being a very complex company and having had this problems with cash flow since the backlog of the COVID times. They did whatever they were supposed to do. They sold some of their assets to have some liquidity, pay down their debt. But okay, pains are persisting a little bit, and I think that this is a good entry point. Alstom here, valuation wise, the price is really good, and I think it's a very good long-term investment. But this is my portfolio and your fund's portfolio, so please do not take this as investment advice. This is not by no means is investment advice. Always consult with your financial advisor if you're going to make any movement in your portfolio.
Everybody has their own personal situation, which is different to each other. So we could not possibly recommend something that works for everybody.
Exactly. And this is our portfolio. We're just discussing what we like. And Alstom is a company that I've been following for 15 years. And so I know they're worth a lot more than the 16, 17 bucks the stock is trading at right now. So it's a good company.
So you would say that their PE ratio is pretty low right now.
Well, I think that they lost last quarter, so I think that there's no PE ratio right now, but forward PE, yeah. But they're again, they're going through some pains, but I think we're seeing the last of those pains. That's okay. What I mean.
Well, I mean, once you hit bottom, unless you start digging, then you got to bounce back up.
There you go. Hey, everybody, please like, subscribe, comment. We always reply. We always and let us know what you want us to talk about because we're very happy to talk about anything that you want to hear about. We may be talking about things that maybe you have something specific that you want us to touch upon. We're here to do so. So
I mean, Joseph had, after all, spent 25 years on Wall Street, so there might be some
yeah,
interesting
remind me how
insider.
old I am. Yeah, remind me how old I am.
You said it. I mean, hey, you said it. So,
Oh God. So here we are. We're at the end of this segment, and we'll see each other next week. Again,
yeah.
please like, subscribe, share, and comment. It would help us a lot. And have a
Have a good start of the week, folks.
exactly. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye.